All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to this Zoom event with Stanford alum in the crypto space. So my name is Khun Peng. I'm currently pursuing a management science and engineering master degree at the engineering school, and also part of the leadership team at Stanford Blockchain Club. I'm also the director of the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator program that we're launching this year to incubate crypto native startups out of the Stanford ecosystem. So today, it's a great pleasure to have Jane Kalidos from Syndicate DAO and Yubo from Parallel Finance and Ida Gao from Shima Capital to join us today. So to discuss and share with us about their experience at Stanford and how to leverage some of the resources they have to kind of jumpstart their career. So to get started, I think we can go around to do an introduction for our panelists. So I think we can start with Jen.
Awesome, thank you, Khun. Happy to be here. It's a bit nostalgic because I used to be on the team last year. Hi, I'm Jen Kalidas. I work at Syndicate DAO on product and go-to-market right now. I graduated from GSB this summer, and prior to GSB, I used to work at Bitsky, another Web3 company in the NFT space. I used to lead security there. My career path has been more, I started as a hardware engineer, did software engineering, product management, and I've also been an investor in data security and crypto companies for the past like 4 years or so. A little bit about Syndicate DAO. It's a Web3 investing protocol and social network that we're trying to build here. Our vision is to empower people and communities to launch Web3 investment clubs, funds, SPVs, as DAOs to invest together. With Syndicate DAO, you can invest in on-chain and off-chain assets, access the entire like Web3 ecosystem of DeFi apps and other DAOs and NFTs that are available, and kind of also leverage Syndicate's tools to maintain compliance for the funds that you create on-chain. The protocol is composable, programmable, and can be infinitely nested and socially networked. We are in private beta right now and hoping to do a product launch sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. Next, Ida.
Okay, thanks for the invite here, Khun. My name is Ida Gao. I was Stanford 2019 GSB. I was there for about a quarter and a half, dropped out to focus on the crypto fund. We currently run a fund called Shima Capital. A little bit about my background. I was born in China in a small town called Shima, moved to the States when I was about 4.5 years old, went to MIT for undergrad, started my career after graduating with comp sci and math background, went into traditional finance, worked at Morgan Stanley in the M&A group in New York. Realized how fucked up the TradFi system was. Moved over to West Coast, worked at NEA, New Enterprise Associates, large VC fund focused on fintech and consumer. Did deals like Open Door, Robinhood, a couple others, and then left because I tried to source a lot of crypto deals for the partnership. They were not really interested, so left to start my first crypto fund called DVC. Went to Stanford as well and matriculated in 2017. Had a really good experience there, but kind of wanted to focus my time on the crypto front. Fast forward to today, we are deploying capital out of Shima Cap, which is a early stage VC fund focused on token investments, leading and co-leading seed and pre-seed deals from all verticals within crypto. One end of the spectrum would be infrastructure, middleware plays. Other end of the spectrum would be metaverses, NFTs, gaming, social coins, and then everything in between, DAOs, DeFi, and we're also very honored to be a supporter of Yubo. So go ahead, Yubo.
Hey, okay, cool. So my name is Yubo, and I am a serial entrepreneur. So Parallel Finance is my fourth company. had so previously I had a technical background starting from pretty much age of 7 to 10, started to do robotics, hardware, and then programming. So during high school, we come up with sort of a robotic idea, and then initially it was a robot designed for sort of senior people. It doesn't really work at the beginning, and we pivot to a robot for children to help them with financial habits. So we made the hardware, and then also made the software for parents to use. After sort of 2 years of sort of hard work, we obviously raise fund and then go through the process of doing the protocol, like the hardware products. So it was eventually acquired by educational chain store. And then I pretty much moved to college to continue my education. And then while I was in college, I spent a lot of time doing investments. So I started a fund called A Decimal Capital since 2017, and we focused on crypto layer 1 and layer 2 investments. So far we have done over 35 to 40 investments in total, and we manage around $60 million fund. 2021 started, I spent some time, started Parallel Finance, and then it's just the latest company. And then so far we raised over close to $30 million from Polychain, Pantera, Lightspeed, Sequoia Capital, Founders Fund, and then a few others. And then we're building DeFi solutions for the Polkadot ecosystem and beyond.
Awesome. Thank you, the panelists, for the introductions. So next we'll dive into some of the questions prepared, and then the audience, feel free to if you need questions, feel free to throw the question to the chat. And then second part of the event, we'll open the floor for questions. We'll answer some of the questions in the chat, and also feel free to raise your hand and mute yourself and ask a question directly. So first question we have is, I think this is a very interesting group that we have a pretty diverse background and all have some connection with Stanford, and all recent graduate or drop out from Stanford, and have quite some experience finding full-time job in awesome crypto startup, or funding a crypto company, or starting a crypto fund, VCs. Right. So the first question I have is how, in general, either general or personal experience, how to leverage Stanford resources or good resource in general to make a good transition into crypto and to jumpstart a crypto career.
Yeah, I can take that initially. So for me, it was a little bit different because I entered the crypto landscape in 2014, 2015. And one of the things that, since I had a technical background at the time, I was doing my master's in electrical engineering. One of the first things that I thought was incredibly helpful was to just, at the very least, audit Dan Bonnet's class on cryptography. And at the time, even though I was in a technical program, I was not exposed to cryptography at all. So the first couple of classes, a lot of things went over my head, but sticking with it a little bit more, I was able to grasp at a lot of things that the crypto community at the time was really leaning into. And around 2017 and around Protocol Labs and all of those guys would talk a lot more, not just technical aspects of it, but also the business aspects of it. So that was a good start for me. I would highly recommend anyone who's even mildly technical to, at the very least, audit Dan Bonnet's class on, I think, CS 255, but he also has CS 251, which is a cryptocurrencies class. It might be a little bit intimidating initially, but stick with it, it gets better. And I know a lot of people who come from completely non-technical backgrounds, who've come from the Navy, Army, with non-technical background, doing GSB, have taken those classes and have found a lot of value. The other thing I would say is obviously the Stanford Blockchain Club. It's very open, and I think the club has always maintained a very open community for people to like come in and be part of. And what that allows you to do is not only network with people within the university, it helps you to network with people. It gives you a lot of clout, at least in the ecosystem, in the crypto ecosystem, to talk more and get to know more about the entire space. I know folks who've like been on Stanford blockchain clubs as organizers who've gone on to like do some really great things in the investing landscape, in the startup scene and all of that. Outside of that, I would say there are a few like law school classes as well. Something that's very helpful there is to understand the now, like three or 4 years ago, if you didn't understand a lot of technical stuff, it was a little bit harder to get into the ecosystem, but today that's not the case anymore. The space in general needs a lot of non-technical folks. And so if you were to have any knowledge around like law, regulation, and even if you're not a law person, it just really helps to, one, form your thoughts on what this ecosystem is about. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions that is like perpetuated over the last like 4 or 5 years because of different hype cycles, because of all the things that have been placed on the crypto ecosystem from a compliance standpoint and regulatory standpoint. And some of these talks in academic settings or even the club settings helps you demystify a lot of those things and makes you more comfortable to be part of the community, larger community. And this is a great, I would say, channel to like get started on.
I would add on to that. I think I totally 100% agree with all of that. And then, so take CS 251, the introduction to cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies. I took the class. It had a pretty good introductory lectures about, start from the blockchain consensus mechanism to Bitcoin scripting languages to Ethereum EVMs to L2s, state channels, and all of that. I think the courses change every single year, but it always catches the latest trend of what is popular and what is important in the crypto space. So so that would be definitely a must take. And then I think do like 255 and 155, one for cryptography, and then the other one would be for network security. This is all under Dan. Other class I would say like super helpful is obviously like 110 or CS like 109 for like the basic stuff. It somehow applied in the the understanding of blockchain itself. But beyond class, I would say if you're interested in more engineering path, then do start with Solidity. It's a really good start, and then definitely try to work on some projects, outside projects. It could be a DeFi protocol, it could be a DAO, or anything, and then try to work in a group and having some peer reviews and feedback. And I feel like this is really needed in this space, and people learn a lot from like just start the code with Solidity. And then if you want to go deeper, then pick up Rust in other like languages to deal with like other blockchain developments. So yeah. And then club wise, I think, yeah, Stanford Blockchain Club is definitely the good ones.
I'll just add to that, to all of those things. Unfortunately, I did not take any of those classes, but I would say outside of those things, talent is very much missing in the crypto space. So coming from Stanford, doesn't matter kind of what department or what school, I think your just like background experience and pedigree would be needed. There's so many different projects and companies out there that need resources. They raise millions of dollars, but there aren't millions of smart contract engineers, Rust developers, or even people on the non-technical side, right? BD, marketing, all of these are different departments within companies that are always hiring. Yubo is hiring, all of my portfolio companies are hiring. I'm sure Jen is hiring. So I think just tap into the alumni network, I actually don't have access to that either, but I think that's a good resource for getting in touch with different founders, different funds. I'm definitely interested in talking to folks who are interested in joining companies as interns or as full-time folks on the technical side and on the non-technical side.
I just want to underscore something that Ida mentioned. Talent is very, very scarce. To find a Solidity engineer right now is so tough. And if you are someone who's just starting out in CS, and if you love coding, pick up Solidity. Like, you become one of the most valuable person within the ecosystem. And if you think about it, like, there are companies who not just companies who want Solidity engineers. Like, if you think about a career projection there, you can become really good at auditing contracts, and people throw so much money at folks who are able to like write Solidity, understand Solidity, and take it apart. It's maddening how much money a lot of startups end up throwing at good Solidity engineers.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was in a Paris ECC conference a couple of months ago, and I just remember talking to a guy who was, was just learning Solidity for, I think he was like 3 months into the, learning some sort of boot camp on Solidity, and he had like 5 job offers. So, I mean, it's very much like a necessary, skill, and yeah, I think, just say that, it's never too late. I'd say it's like crypto is like dog years times 10 in terms of everything.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the green points and all the resources. I'm actually taking the CS 251 with Dan Bonnet's class. It's definitely a very good class. And actually, we're considering still in planning phase, potentially have a Solidity bootcamp for like say either the CS student or anyone that feel comfortable to program, for them to actually learn Solidity in a week or 2.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So thank you for the great answers. So the next question I have is before we dive into more kind of your full-time commitments, being like VC or founder or like executive from a startup. I want to ask a question on behalf of someone who's like still a student. Maybe it's like a year or 2 away from graduating in MBA 1 or undergrad, a freshman or sophomore, or someone who already graduated but still haven't decided what to work on yet. So what's your suggestion on some kind of a part-time effort or internship or research for someone who want to test the water a bit? What's some of the good things they could potentially try or links to check?
Yeah, if you're still in school, like some of the low level effort that you could like start on is right now DAOs are having their moment under the sun, right? And there are so many DAOs that are being spun up. It's a great way to one, get plugged into the crypto community, like be part of a DAO and offer to help like manage the DAO or create materials for the DAO. There are a lot of DAOs that come together for a particular cause. There are some DAOs that come together for just like investing, like you could be the person that does due diligence in some ways. And so when you do that, you kind of tend to learn about investing practices, but also the ecosystem quite well. So things like that, I would say like be obsessed with like some parts of crypto Twitter, not all of it, because there are a lot of opportunities that are brought in there. Like people start talking about different communities that are getting formed and such. So that's on the DAO side of things. I would say in terms of internships, if you are still in school and if you don't have a lot of commitments and like personal life, always try to go to a smaller startup in the crypto ecosystem, because the learning curve there is quite high, but the value you get out of that learning curve is much more massive than what you actually put in my opinion. For example, like when I joined Bitsky, there were a lot of things that I was very oblivious about, even though I'd been in the crypto space for at least like 2 to 3 years. And what I learned in that 1 year took me a lot further. And also there, like if you were thinking about investing landscape, there are a lot of solo GPs and community, investing communities that are always looking for scouts. Like you could be the person who brings them, deals from Stanford campus or other campuses or even outside. That's very valuable. And you tend to like build your track record there, right? And so now by the time you graduate, you have the brand value and you've like shown your work, and people will be very like excited to welcome you to larger opportunities. The one thing that always underscores the crypto ecosystem is that do the work up front. You may feel like it may not give you a lot while you're doing it, but once you've shown to the community that you are good at certain things, the community will flock to you, and that's been very true for a long time within the ecosystem.
Let me add on some like more, I guess, for the one who are more, more interested in starting a company, I think it's always good to just get started, even if you just sort of know about crypto. But I think this is a great place, and like there's a lot of VCs are supporting early stage founders. Specifically, Ida is helping a lot of early stage projects to grow, so definitely find him if you had an idea. And we at Parallel can also help. Honestly, just try it out. If it doesn't work, then it's still good. It's a great experience to learn. I mean, I started my first company when I was probably in high school, and I think that is very risky at that time. But looking backward, I do feel like this experience, like starting company experience, is extremely helpful. I learned probably 10 times more than if I were to just work on some other projects. It actually forces you to learn so much and pushes you to the limits. So feel free to try if you have a good idea. If you don't have an idea, then obviously like work for someone else.
Yeah, I think those are all really good, suggestions. Shameless plug. I know that Binance is looking to hire a full-time and also an intern from MBA. So if you're interested, let me know. Binance Labs and Binance Investments for specifically Bay Area. Binance is, for people who don't know, is a large exchange, one of the largest, if not the largest. So there's some alpha for you right there. Also, we are as well. So reach out to Kun, get my email. Happy to chat about opportunities.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those tips and tricks. Next thing I have is for someone who's like new in the space, right? In crypto space, want to break into the crypto space, being like a technical person or no technical person. I think you guys touched the point a little bit, but I just want to go deeper. And also, if you guys can give a concrete name, an actionable thing, that would be great. Like, what do you think about like how to build a network, a connection in the crypto space? Like, what are some good places they can go, or some good meetups they can actually go, either virtually or physically, and some of the good DAOs they can get into, and some of the good developer communities on Discord. What are those that they can get into to learn more and get connected with awesome folks in the crypto space? And what crypto Twitters to follow too?
In terms of crypto Twitter, it's hard to like name all the names. Something that I think what has helped is kind of go into a few of like even folks who are from Stanford Blockchain Club who are on Twitter, like go and check the people that they are following, and very quickly you'll like realize a lot of the people in the crypto ecosystem like follow like about like 200 to like 400 same people. And that's a good way to start, I would say, in terms of following people. I don't have like a lot of names come to my mind right now. Like you could another approach would be to pick the top VC firms or companies and people who work in certain roles within the companies and see who they are following. And that's a great way to start as well. In terms of meetups and such, there are a lot of ones that are popping up slowly now post-COVID in SF. There's the SF crypto community. There's a couple of like developer-oriented ones that different companies do. Like for example, like recently, like Goldfinch did a meetup. I think today, one of the I don't know if it's Solana or someone else is like doing one too. So it's always good to like check on their Discords, what events that they're throwing. You may not be able to go to all of them, but it's good to keep tabs on it. In terms of someone who is new to the space, I would say like going through A16Z's like Crypto Canon or NFT Canon or Paradigms, research blogs, you will be able to like start seeing certain names and the kind of information that they put out there, and being able to like follow them, I think is a good place too.
I think for the Twitter followers, it'll be super helpful to take a look at the top blockchain founders. So one way you can do is to go to defilemma.com or .io and check it out. The highest DeFi protocols have highest TVLs, and then search up their founders and follow them. Follow the L1 chains founders, and then I think through that, also definitely like top tier investors, like top 10, top 20 investors, and they had a lot of people like they retweet and a lot of information. So I guess start from the industry leaders would be a good idea.
And then when it comes to like conferences and like physical events, I think crypto conferences, at least now, are a little bit different than, you know, TradFi, traditional finance, or like other conferences where they're kind of boring, or there's not a lot of alpha. You don't really learn too much. But in crypto, the conferences, if you go to the right ones, actually are really useful, and you can meet a lot of people. And some, you know, you don't even need to go to the actual conference, right? The conference tickets can be very expensive. You just go to all the different parties and meetups that are surrounding the conferences. There's one coming up in New York called NFT NYC, November 1st through 4th. That would be a really good one. I'll send out a link in the group chat here for a list of all the events for that conference. There's one in Lisbon for Solana Breakpoint happening in November 7th through 10th. I know a lot of GSBers like to travel, so that might be a good one for you guys to do a trip to Portugal. But yeah, I think ETH, what is it called? ETH Global hosts a lot of great events as well, hackathons, and there's good ones there. And yeah, I think that's what I would say about that topic.
Right.
I think actually there's an event going on right now in the city called Crypto Underground. I think they host events for people in the Bay Area. I'll post that one if I can find it in the group chat.
That one, I think today they're covering security, and they're very like developer oriented. So that's a good one. And I just wanted to like add, in terms of other resources, like podcasts are a great way to learn more. I would say being able to like listen to Bankless or Zero Knowledge, Unchained, any of these podcasts is a good start. Some of them are quite technical. Some of them are very business oriented. You know, you can take your pick.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all those good resources and places they can go and network. All right. So the audience, like, feel free to. I think I saw a couple of questions in the chat. I'll get to the chat questions, but feel free to like raise your hand or throw more question to the chat once you hear like certain part like question or you want to follow up on. So the other question I have is, since this part of the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator program that will start the winter quarter, so for people who want to apply, want to get into the accelerator program, I think one most important thing is like the idea, right? To which area you should focus and work on. So based on, since you guys live in the forefront of like the crypto, being a founder or VC or full-time like existingly funded startup. So what do you guys see as kind of the, from your perspective, right? You think it's like the ideas that's very interesting that has not been explored yet. It's still like kind of blue ocean that quite could be a lot of opportunity out there that student could double click on or explore more.
Yeah, I think crypto in general has so much to be done and built for. Like you can take any level, right? Like you could take middleware, and there are so many layers that still needs to be built, like even to match up to what's built in Web 2. And if you were to like project it beyond Web 2, there's just like a lot of things. I know people have been like raging a lot about NFTs. It's a great start, but you could like start thinking about what you can do with NFTs beyond the visual aspect, beyond the audio aspect, because there are a lot of applicability. Like for example, some things that people have been thinking about is like, how do you use NFTs for like KYC, AML sort of things, right? So how can you bridge that gap between what is technically feasible today within the crypto ecosystem and the world applications that we haven't still hit? There's one way to think about that. And another one is there are, Stanford is largely, people call it an AI school. And there are a lot of people who take a lot of AI classes and machine learning classes. There is still like a massive gap in kind of the analytics that we can do on the data on any of the chains, right? I think Ethereum is in a much better spot than all other chains. And so even if you're not particularly enthused about like learning cryptography and like being a Solidity engineer, like looking at data analytics and like all of those things is very helpful as well. DAOs are, we are just at the bare bones of DAOs right now. Like all we can, if you think about it, like all we can do is pool capital and allocate capital with a little bit of governance. And how do you take that to the next level? Like something that happens is people are still like congregating on Discord in terms of how to talk about their DAOs, or like they're investing ideas in DAOs and things like that. So what does a composable like communication protocol look like that could be built on other layer 2 or layer 3 protocols that exist? So those are some of the things that people are starting to think about. And then if you think about user experience aspect, wallets have evolved so much in the last like 5 years or so, but there's still a massive gap in like getting a user who knows nothing about crypto to be able to use a crypto application. Like there's the gamification aspect, there is being able to see a lot of information, but in a more streamlined manner. Like all of that improvement still needs to be done. Like we don't have like a good wallet infrastructure even for mobile, right? Like mobile experience for Web3 is not that great. So if you are excited about like iOS, Android kind of applications, like thinking about what it means to bring Web3 to those devices. I know it's a little bit harder given the nature in which these operating systems are built, but that's a great place to like start thinking about innovating.
Totally agree with that. I don't have too much to add on this point. I think this is a good answer, really comprehensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just add on to that a little bit. right now we're in a bull market, right? Everybody is really excited about crypto. The market cap is 2.5 trillion or something crazy. And that's not going to sustain, right? For people who have been through bear markets, right? It can get very lonely. So one area where maybe you can take a look at that can sustain a bear market a little bit better than other verticals within crypto would be something in like the metaverse gaming space, because I think that, gaming will always be there, right? It's always been there in the past. And so that's an area that we're focusing a lot of time on in terms of investments. I think a lot of the play to earn games are focusing too much on the earn part, not enough on the play part. But I think gaming is a really cool industry that will be, disrupted by blockchain, and it could be one that can sustain a good bear market. Metaverses is like a tangential vertical, I'd say, that is, getting a lot of steam as well. Other verticals, I think DAOs also could be one that is kind of sustaining big bear market if it can really unlock the true potential of DAOs, right? Creating new types of LLCs, kind of not even kind of counter-cyclical to crypto and Bitcoin price, right? If DAO can be used as infrastructure, as what Jen and her team are doing at Syndicate, then it doesn't really, it'll be counter-cyclical too. So I think focusing on DAOs is also really cool because it allows you to get all aspects of crypto in one, right? You get to really kind of dive into what Web3 is all about and kind of peer into the future a little bit. It forces you to use Discord. It forces you to do things that you may not do in other kind of verticals within crypto.
Awesome. Thank you for the great answers. And there's like so many ideas, as you guys said, is growing exponentially, the space. So there's a lot of ideas, like some of the students can take just one of them and go deep, and that could be already like a huge, can turn into a huge project. Right, so now we're opening the floor for questions. So I think according to the chat, I think Laura had the question earlier. So we'll let Laura unmute, ask a question.
Thanks, Kuhn. I think I had two questions that Kuhn told me I put in. Okay, so the immediate one, Ida, since you're making predictions, can you tell us your prediction on what the steady state coin market cap and the NFT market cap is going to be?
The steady state, I think the steady state is going to be up good. I think it's going to be a lot higher than it is now. Steady state is, what steady state over the next, 30 days, steady state over the next 30, months. And I think in general, we typically don't look at from our fund's perspective, right? We don't really care too much about what the market cap of crypto is. We don't look at it every day. We're not traders. We're not a hedge fund. But we just care about, some other metrics, right? KPIs that we look at are how much capital is flowing into the space. How much talent, capital is flowing to the space, human capital is flowing to the space. And I think that those KPIs are increasing and growing exponentially. We have a lot of folks on this call today. We have a lot of folks that are going to be going to those conferences I mentioned. So I think in terms of predictions, I do think that there's crypto's here to stay, obviously, but there's a lot of momentum and resources in terms of capital to fund a lot of founders that are going to be popping up over the next 2 years, even through bear markets, right? If you think about the lag that happens for capital deployment, when you raise a fund, like for example, Andreessen raised $2.2 billion for their crypto fund, they're not going to be able to deploy all of that tomorrow, right? Even if they, do a lot of secondary OTC transactions or, do like growth stage deals, that's a lot of capital to deploy. And so I think there's an inherent lag for the deployment of capital in 2017, right? When there was a massive influx of ICOs and capital that of asset appreciation, then there wasn't the same type of backstop of capital getting raised like there is today from venture capitalists. Back then it was more, everybody got rich off of ICOs and they kind of recycle those returns into other ICOs. In this, I think this cycle, you're seeing more steady capital getting raised from endowments and whoever that are flowing into funds, and also other other fund allocators or capital allocators like macro funds. Brevin Howard has been which is a large macro fund out of UK, has been putting a lot of capital into the space. I think there's a big buy wall coming and already kind of coming that will help sustain the market over any kind of bear market that we see.
Go ahead.
Just to add to that, I think this was in late 2019 or early 2020, no, early 2019, Fidelity did this massive survey of TradeFi funds and how they think about crypto. And if you think about it, at that time, we weren't even in a bull market, right? Like we got into bull market late 2019. Or like mid 2019. And if you look at that data, it'll tell you more about how in the next like 5 to 10 years, even TradeFi funds are looking into entering the crypto space. They obviously don't give you like a market cap, but that's a good set of data to look at. The other thing I would say also is how big of markets are opened up using crypto protocols. Like, you know, when people think about derivatives, like people make this like comparison of like in the TradeFi world, like there's a market cap for derivatives. But if you were to like think about in the crypto landscape, like how much percentage of that or even beyond that is being unlocked by crypto as people bring more real world assets or even crypto assets into the landscape is a good way to think about it too.
Yeah, the current market cycle, the whole like crypto market cycle has been lengthening over the last like 2 to 3 cycles, and I see a very steady growth of talents and capital, especially high quality capital flowing to the space. And so usually the primary market had around 6 months to 8 months of lagging from the secondary markets. So in general, I think now is really perfect time for founders and then for like projects to raise additional capital to, you know, support ideas. So, you know, talking about a steady price, you know, we really don't look at the price that much, to be honest. Like it's in the long term, it doesn't really matter. And, you know, as a founder shouldn't really care too much about the price, like short-term movements. However, I think it does really helpful to sort of be mindful of the cycles and be careful about like when is the good time to raise and when is time that is relatively harder, right? If all the funds are having billions of funds just setting up, you may be on a really good market timing for raising additional capital. And on the other hand, if they have deployed in the next 2 years and then the cycle is going down, then it might be you might end up in a situation where the market is not performing well, and then the funds are readjusting their valuation target, and it's, you know, you sort of have to raise or have a lower expectations of your company valuation at that time.
Thanks.
Thank you. CK?
Yeah, appreciate it. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Good to see you, Jen and Yida. Yubo, we haven't met, but I'm also invested in you through Yida, and also I did the Kusama crowd loan for Heiko. So my question is, Jen mentioned earlier that Solidity, like she'd recommend most people kind of tap into Solidity, kind of learn that skill set, and there's a lot of opportunity there. You decided to launch on Polkadot and Kusama. So kind of thinking through, like, what was the logic there for Jen and Yida? Like, how do you think about broadly as folks are trying to join the space and trying to like kind of find companies to join or to start? How do you think about the ecosystem broadly from a layer one? And I guess Polkadot's not technically a layer one, but from like where you actually invest your resources and your energy?
Yeah, so I can take another question real quick. So all the layer ones are essentially, imagine all the layer ones are a AWS. Ethereum is one of the largest AWS, or a web server that everyone launching an application on top. And all the smart contracts share the same runtime with each other. So you have the advantage of composability between every single application, because all the memory are sharing the same data, and then you can run things pretty fast, pretty smooth connecting with other applications. However, there are a lot of limitations of how to, how much smart contract can do. One of the biggest limitation for smart contract is the data availability layers, right? If you want to get access to the historical states of the network, it is impossible to do that on chain, right? You have to rely on some Oracle or some off-chain services, which could be much more centralized. So I think the crypto space has been growing large enough to have multiple, AWS in the long term, right? So we could have some chains specialize in one thing, some chains specialize in the other thing. If you look at the TVLs per, all the L1s, Ethereum domination has been dropping from 99% to maybe 80% or even lower than that. So in the long term, it's going down. And this is undeniable trend. I see that. And then, so go back to the question you asked about specific Polkadot. So Polkadot technically is a framework to launch a blockchain, or it's a launchpad for a new type of L1s, right? So you can either launch a smart contracts, which have a lot of limitations, or you can launch your own blockchain. So building a blockchain requires you to do a lot of stuff. You have to do the P2P layers, consensus layers, runtime protocols and things like that. So Polkadot provide that framework for you to build launch a blockchain pretty fast, but at the same time, you don't have to run your validators, right? So if you use Cosmos SDK as a framework, then run your validators, and you have to incentive people to do that, and which could be complicated. So we choose on the other half where Polkadot don't requires you to do that, and we just share the same security layers with the relation or the base network itself, so that we can focus, or a developer can focus on the applications or protocol designs on top. So so my long-term view on that would be, so the dominations will continue going down in the next 10 years. And then we see very different structures that is, very different at layer ones that designed for a specific type of applications. And then the sort of infrastructure will be adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, I will echo what Yubo mentioned. There's a wonderful article written by, I believe, Hasib Qureshi from Dragonfly, where he talks about how you can think of different layer ones like these, like cities, and each city is known for something, right? And if you are, for example, if DeFi is your thing, right? Ethereum so far, because of its composability and the developer ecosystem and things like that, that's been able to accelerate much better in the last couple of years. But now that percentage is slowly starting to decline a little bit too. And so you could see a world in which there are certain application oriented layer ones that would pop up. That being said, from a talent perspective, from thinking about where should I focus on learning, I think it's always good to think about from a virtual machine standpoint, right? You learn about Ethereum virtual machine because you understand Ethereum a little bit better, and because a lot of other layer ones are better, are trying to build a better version of the Ethereum or a better version of Bitcoin. There's a additive factor to it. And so when you learn some of these early protocol, how they work, and what you need to, the languages you need to learn and things like that, you can easily compound your knowledge base on top of that. And you can easily port over, and people, a massive thing is also the interoperability aspect, right? How do you bridge and take assets from Ethereum to Solana, or what is possible, what is not possible. And when you're learning from the core of each of these protocols, and you think about innovating and building companies, it makes it so much easier for you to understand the problem space.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. CK, is that good?
I mean, if you want to say something, please.
No, I'm good. If you're good, we're good.
All right, cool. Vishal.
Thank you, panel, for sharing all these views and perspective. That's been really helpful. My question is for Jen. Can you talk a little bit more about the security space that you've been talking about, and specifically what kind of gaps currently exist in the market? And then is there anything specific you're planning to address?
you mentioned the security space.
Yes.
That's a massive space. I would say like more than like 50% of a lot of crypto stuff is, in some way related to security. So one thing that the crypto space has done really well is take some of the crypto, when I say crypto in this context, I'm talking about cryptography, right? Like cryptography modules, and make it more into application based companies or like programs and things like that. And generally that there is this understanding that blockchains are secure, and it's true because of the way that the consensus protocol is done. It's true based on how transactions are submitted to the network and how they're approved and all of those things. But then when you take security a little bit further, everything else is like similar to a Web2 stack. And at each of those layers, there you could have a lot of security issues, right? Like if you take custody for the longest time, like security in custody has been like one of the largest problems that the space has been tackling. And now that we have gotten ourselves to a good point, there is still like, people will still tell like, oh, like Web3 wallets that are in web browser extensions are still not secure. And it's true for a lot of reasons, right? Like you start to go down like the user threat model and things like that. And all of that problem space is still very much active in crypto. And so are you looking for like more like tangible like problems within that entire space? Or are you looking for more like an overview of like if the security?
Yeah, I'm more looking like the general challenges that exist and the most pressing ones which would need to be addressed more quickly.
Yeah, there's like I think like Yubo can also touch on this. There are a lot of security models in which like when you like submit a transaction to the network, like there's like a lot of like front running aspect. You could take it as a security issue too, right? And then in each of your like I would say your middleware layer has very specific transaction data modification. This was something that we used to like tackle with at Bitski, is how do you make sure that your transaction data isn't modified in any way. And in some cases it's been solved, in some cases it hasn't been solved. And with different blockchain layer ones, the problem is different on how they aggregate that data and process that data.
Thanks.
Okay, I think Laura, you have another question.
I had a question on DAOs. Also, hi, Jen. I can't believe we were friends for 2 years and only now after graduating are we discussing this. But my question was, are DAOs just a way for us to start investment funds without having to follow investment regulation? Because that seems like a great way to use them, but then some people told me don't do that. So I'm just curious if you could demystify for us.
Yeah, please don't use, DAOs are not a way to get away from compliance. And there are easier and better compliance that can be done for DAOs, and that is something that Syndicate DAO has been working on. But the general sense is like, don't try to use DAO platforms to get away from compliance. Something that recently happened is I think FWB wanted to do an investment DAO, and they collected capital, and at one point they had to redistribute their capital back to their investors because they didn't do it in a very compliant way. So in the last like few months or so, we are also seeing more and more DAOs that are trying to go more towards compliance, whether that's a legal entity formation, whether that's how they do KYC AML, at least for investment DAOs is becoming more and more of a thing that fund managers and DAO admins are concerned about.
Right. I think, yeah, so DAO, it's also beyond like, for investments. I see DAO as a new way of, like transforming how human resources are collaborating with each other, and then in a trusted way to share, to use the role-based mechanism to share rewards, to share the rewards, and then trying to more fairly distribute the upside to the contributors to achieve a specific end goal. I see that as a pretty, I see that has a pretty large use case beyond like the basic things that are at this moment. Probably, that can, all the companies in this space, like in the current, like in the world, can be eventually evolved into a DAO itself, and even a specific government can be a DAO. I just see that could happen in the long term, and that could be the infrastructure for a lot of things. Governance, profit sharing, collaborative workings, and things like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, the other thing with DAOs too and compliance is that the point when you try to like democratize something, you want to make it easy for regulators to say, sure, go ahead and democratize it. And so if you have a mission to like enable underrepresented communities or generally unaccredited investors to be able to like participate in some way, the best way possible is to follow guidelines so that you can like take all of those missions at scale globally as well.
Thank you. So we're almost out of time. Just want to make sure, Xiang, you have a quick question to ask?
Right, I'll try to make it quick and reformat my question. So on this topic of DAOs, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to start like a Stanford DAO. I'm not sure if that topic was hit on in this conversation, but I was originally going to ask you like what you think about it, kind of having like a Flamingo DAO kind of set up where people could own parts of a vault that have like really cool NFTs in it, that's open just to Stanford students or something. But I guess just because we're running out of time, I'd like to ask like, are there any resources or websites that you think we could go to see what kind of compliance issues will come up and how we can navigate through that if we were to build this Stanford DAO or a GSB DAO?
Yeah, in terms of compliance, I can look for it. Nothing comes to top of mind in terms of what are some of the issues that pop up, because I think people are still discovering issues as we go. Like, for example, when you like buy an NFT and you split that NFT's ownership among your members, you're essentially fractionalizing that NFT. So are you fractionalizing a security? In which case, will the SEC come after you for that? Or, are there other regulatory things that you have to do? It's something that all of us are trying to like figure out. But that being said, I'm happy to like chat more. And like from Syndicate DAO, we are also like putting together some best practices and what some of our customers have been thinking about doing, either with our legal team or even with their own counsel and how they think about it. So we're trying to put some resources together. Yeah.
Just one short question. Do you think it's possible to do something where we're not like infringing on any laws, but we have a sort of fun DAO set up in GSB or Stanford?
Yeah, so there's the concept of investment clubs, right? That has taken off in the crypto ecosystem, where technically, if you are, and the SEC also has a very definite definition of what an investment club is. Like a couple of things that I can mention is that all members in the club should vote on the investment proposals. I think in some legal entity structures, all of your members have to be accredited, but in some legal structures, there are ways in which not everyone needs to be accredited. So there's like a few of the flows that are possible there. But of course, like if you want to like get together and buy assets, it's absolutely possible to like do it as an investment club. And there are differences also if you were to do off-chain assets like equity and things like that. It's a whole other ball game. But if you're just getting together to like buy an NFT on chain, it's a completely different thing too. If you do NFT mutual fund kind of a thing, that's completely different too. So there's a lot of things there.
Got it. I'll reach out with an email and I'd love to read those websites or resources you have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we will actually have a week, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, dedicated to DAO. So it will be a lot of DAO discussion.
Okay, that's great.
More there. All right. So
All
I
right.
just want to, yeah, thank you. So I just want to, it's almost out of time, but I just want to ask the panelists, do you have like last words or parting thoughts to share with Stanford blockchain community?
Sorry, Kun, you cut out for me.
Okay, no problem. I can restart. So I said we're almost out of time. I just want to check with you. You have like any last words or parting thoughts to share with the Stanford blockchain community?
Yeah, something from my end would be it's okay to like not have to like try to find the top projects to go and like contribute to. Like whatever you have access to, whatever you have resources for, like start somewhere, and that's going to get you a long way in the crypto space, because that will also teach you how to evaluate projects, how to easily join companies and clubs and DAOs and all of these things. So start somewhere soon.
Awesome. I don't know, Ida or Hugo.
Yeah, sure. I would say, immediate things I can help you guys with. If you guys are looking for a job, internship, hit me up. And yeah, hopefully we can help out from that perspective.
Same, I'm also hiring. So Syndicate DAO is hiring aggressively in the next few months. So please reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for the panelists, awesome panelists, Ida, Jen, and Yubo, for sharing with us so many great resources and connection tricks, how to break into crypto space, and also your perspective, expertise based on your experience in your company and funds. I learned quite a bit from this session. So thank you so much for your time. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.